practice properly. In this video, I'm gonna go over what this means, what it means to practice properly, what it goes into practicing properly, and how you can reach your goals by practicing properly. So let's start out with some quotes. So a famous quote from Doc Rivers, the famous Boston Celtics NBA coach, once said, "Young players have to be taught how to win. They know how to play, they haven't figured out how to do it and win at the same time." Essentially, this quote means that younger players lacks the experience of winning, and they have to get that through mentors and through people with experience. And this essentially can happen if you play in a Counter-Strike team and you're playing on a team with people who has more experience, who has won lands, for example, or if you go to fitness and you have a fitness buddy and your fitness buddy has done his craft, has been going to the gym more than you have and have more experience in that, you lean on their experience and try to take something from their experience and apply it onto yourself. The same with a famous artist called Andy Warhol. They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourselves. This goes takes a lot, and this resembles a bit of the mentality to improve, which I covered previously. And the ideology of this is basically that things doesn't just change. You have to do an active. You have to do something yourself to start the change. If it is starting on Monday, you go to fitness, and then you say you go 6 times a week. And or if you say, okay, well, you're gonna do a daily routine in Counter-Strike, and then you do it continuously, and you do it every single day, and find time to do it every single day. Another famous quote from the famous artist Salvador Dali: "Those who do not want to imitate anything produce nothing." This could be for Counter Strike as well as again in fitness, for example. You have to look at people who has done something, who has produced something, who has become something, and take and learn from what they have done through their actions. Look at what they have done and how they did it, and then try and apply it onto yourself. And you're not the same person as that guy, but take what you can use and then use it on yourself and be consistent about it. So if we take an example, this can be like these tips can be used for anything in life, but we're gonna mainly look at Counter Strike in this video, and how you can use that and the method you use, and you can apply that onto other aspects of life as well. So if we start out by saying, okay, well, if you want to practice properly, you need to first find out what it is you want to practice. So in Counter Strike, you have to be open-minded, as we talked about in the mentality to improve as well. You have to be open-minded about what you're good at, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then you have to work on that. So you have to go in and look at, are you good at doing aimbots? Are you good at shooting heads? Are your daily routine? You can start by doing checking up on your daily routine. Is it too comprehensive? Is it too much? Every person is different. Saivu, for example, plays Faceit to warm up, whereas Santaris shoots like 1000 in DM every single day. Every person is different, and you need to find out how you become the best you are. Are you better with 40 to 60 hours on 2 weeks? Are you better at 80 hours? Are you better at 100 or 120 hours? You need to figure out where you are best, at what time, and then at what times of day. So, and that's especially true and can be used when you find out what time of day you are most focused. So find out what time. Try to feel on yourself. Well, when do you feel good in a day? Like when do you feel super laser focused? And use that time if you have it available, and then do it and use that time to do your daily routine or whatever you want to focus on if it's fitness. So let's say that you're like razor sharp at from 6 in the morning till 8 in the morning. Well, then you wake up at 5:30 maybe or 5. Wake up, get into the rhythm of the day you're going to live, and then you start out the day by going to shower and doing your daily stuff, and then as a part of your daily routine you do your daily practice method, your daily routine, just incorporate it in it. So if it is the Hiko challenge, for example, or if it's whatever it is you want to do, make sure to be consistent with it and do it all every single time. You do not have to do it in this time where you are laser focused, but you can try to strive for doing it in that time, since this is where you will get the most out of it. This can apply to studying as well. So if you are laser focused in studying from 6 a.m. till 8 a.m., then you wake up at 6 a.m., study for 2 hours, and then you can get more done than when you're like tired after an entire day, and you get more out of it. You can read more pages, you can remember better. But basically, by having good routines like eating healthy, going to fitness, and exercising, generally drinking a lot of water, and this will help you be more focused and give you more energy to get through your daily routines and your daily life with this mindset. So, for practicing in Counter-Strike in general, you have to find your strengths and your general weaknesses. Once you have identified those, you have to remember to not only focus on your weaknesses, but also keep your strengths, keep practicing your strengths. Because if you don't practice them equally, the equal amount as you practice your weaknesses, you will start losing out that edge you have, and that strength you have might become a normal mediocre thing instead of a strength and a plus that you can work on. Find out where you are good in the game. Are you good at entry fragging? Are you good at mid round? Are you good at finding openings? Find what you are good at in the game and focus on that, and make sure that your in-game leader puts you up in that roles that you identify. You are aware of where you are good in the game, and then practice around that. So for a team game like Counter-Strike, you have to work together with your 5 teammates. You have to be able to do every single role except of the in-game leader and the AVP role if you're a rifler. This means that you have to be able to support, lurk, throw flashes, go first if you have to. Know what it means to go first. That it means you have to create space. That it means you have to be the one calling flashes, and that the support players and the backup guys are ready to trade you, and then just trust and believe that they are with you, and practice that in some of your different methods in practice. So for practicing team play, you can start out by there's a lot of different methods, and I'm just gonna name a few of them. So there's one where you can play very default heavy. You play maybe one default, let's say Inferno. You take apps, banana, and middle. That's your default. You try and take those different timings. You don't really have to do like it doesn't have to be super specific. You just have to rely on communication and talk to each other. If you through good communication, you can get the map control that you need, and then when you have your map control, you can start working on getting put up in the right spots. So by practicing the defaults and openings and finding entries, you have an easier time winning rounds, because you can easier go out and find openings and try and find holes in the opposing team's defense. As another method is to go for execute heavy. So let's say you take banana control, mid control, and apps control on Inferno, and you then go out in an execute. That's a very classical way of playing. And the other way is more like, okay, well, now you have the map control, so you're gonna try and lurk out and find aim duels and try and win those. Another thing you can do is also try and take and try and cycle your grenades, use your grenades to get the enemies to use their grenades, and then hit a site with like only one flash where they have to rely on hitting the shots, and you run in with a flash and you have the peakest advantage, which is the old days iBuyPower style of playing Counter-Strike. These different methods, and there are many more, these different methods are just like a few, and they can help you strategize and help your team, help you build your team and find out how you can use your players best as an in-game leader. Also, it can help your role players, find out what roles they are best in. Then you can find out if they are suited for the roles, and you can learn how to play around an AWPer. You can learn if your AWPer is one who's gonna log the angles, so if it's gonna be a flash guy, so if it's a guy you're gonna send in third or fourth. Again, differently for the skill sets, you can identify the skill sets of the different teammates you have, because they might say that they're good at something, but then you realize that, and you can see through their play, that they're actually better at doing something else. even though they might have a limited experience in it, you can see how good they are at the potential they have in that role. This is a very, very good exercise for in-game leaders, but also for the role players. They can realize something about themselves, that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be an entry fragger because I'm good at mirror calling and good at finding openings and finding holes in the enemy's defense. So maybe you should be more on the lurk side, on the outside. And the same goes for CT side with okay, well, maybe you have rotation players. Maybe one of your rotation players are really good at playing around utility and locking down sites. Maybe he should be an anchor instead if one of your other players are struggling at it, or maybe just if that is a role where you find him more suitable. So that's like a bit of different things you can practice on the team-based level. Also on a more strategic level, you can practice. Well, let's say you do. I made this example in the last video where you do. Okay, well, you have to find out what you can do with a vent drop. With a guy vent drop, well, yeah, theoretically you can do this and this and this, but you have to try it out on your own body and in your team, and how through communication that works. All right, well, then you do a vent drop 15 T rounds in a row, and then you do that for like 2 entire days of practice, and you'll find out, okay, roughly against a lot of different opposition, how you can do how you can react in different methods in different ways, and you send different guys under every time, so everyone gets experience in getting sent down vent. Another thing is maybe mid control on Mirage. Well, after you have mid control, what can you do with it? Then try it out. What about taking mid on Mirage? Not only by rushing, but maybe by delaying it, or by walking out silently after making a lot of noise on the other sides of the map. There's a million different ways of doing it, and then you have to find out what works and what does not work when you do it this way. Excuse me. And this is just some examples. You can apply this to every single map, and where you can get a good amount of map control, and then you have to find out through experience, through the different players you want to be in those positions, and then you can find out, well, is that player good in that position? Can he get a lot of space and do a lot of annoyance to the enemy team if that's what you want? Or is he just dying without getting any impact? Again, look at it. Maybe, okay, well, if he just dies, find another guy who maybe is better at thinking on his feet and thinking alone, while the in-game leader is off doing something else with the 3 other different teammates he has. Another thing, find out when executes are the right time to be called, when contact plays or rushes are the right times to be called. Again, practice this in your practice games. Do not focus on winning. Practice on the different ways to enter a site. Practice different running patterns, different kind of everything. There's so many variables that you can change throughout every single execute. Well, maybe your in-game leader is trying to practice how to counter the enemy team. Well, then when tell the other team that you're practicing to maybe you practice to try and do the same strategy with the different variables to try and counter the enemy team, and then see how that works. If your in-game leader can do that, counter the enemy team out of what they do from their defaults, what their tendencies are. And that is extremely important that the in-game leader also practice this, because this is not something you learn overnight. Yeah, you might know the executes in and out, but if your in-game leader cannot do a little twist, a little notch, a little tiny difference, which might be the thing that makes you win the round instead of losing it, maybe throwing a flash 2 seconds later, or running up before smokes bloom, or something. Like, your in-game leader have to be able to look at these different things and try and adjust it and fine tune it against every opponent, and find out where their weaknesses are and where their openings are. This also applies to the players themselves. If they have an idea for the guys running in, maybe the in-game leader is the one flashing them in, so the in-game leader cannot truly see how the enemy team is reacting against it. The first player is running in, so maybe the first player has an opening and an idea. Okay, guys, let's try this thing, or try and throw a flash and just send me out, and then you can throw smokes after. There's like a million different ways of doing it. You can also just contact up and then throw your nades after you get contact. Now, now let's talk about the individual and what the individual can do. We talked about daily routine. Well, find out again, just to reiterate, find out what works for you. Is it 200 bots and then 1000 in DM? Is it 5000 bots and 500 in DM? Like, find out, test out on yourself, and then practice what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you're good at tapping but not good at spraying, then practice tapping in bots maybe, or the 100 kills, and then do 100 kills of spray in deathmatch. Especially in deathmatch, that's really important. As the same with crosshair placement. If you find out that you have a hard time killing people swinging corners, your crosshair placement might be bad. Or you can generally look at your pistol play. If you're really good at getting kills with especially the USP or the deagle, you are extremely, like, you probably have a really good crosshair placement. But if you're, and then again, it depends on how much you flick on them, but again, a variable. But identify your weaknesses and try and work around them, and do that in deathmatch and aim in aimbots or in face it or in matchmaking. The same with communication, as we talked about in the mentality to improve video. And the more you practice this, the more you practice these fundamentals and get them down, you get them. Everything becomes muscle memory, and you just don't think, and everything becomes instinct. And when everything becomes instinct, everything just elevates. Your entire skill set elevates to another ceiling and to another level, which will allow you to evolve explosively and extremely fast in a very short amount of time when you have this under control. But again, this thing, if you do not have the fundamentals down and under control, it's gonna take forever. You cannot move on to more advanced stuff before you have all of the fundamentals under control. It's the same with teamwork. It's the same with the individual. It's the same with fitness. If you don't know how to do the exercise properly, you can't put on more weight, because then you risk injuring yourself. It's the same thing if you do that on a team. Well, if you do some more advanced strats from the beginning, or just only do set strats, then your teammates will never learn how to think for themselves. And if they can't think for themselves, then they are basically just headless chickens running around. And then if strats don't work, they can't think of how to fix it on the fly, or come with ideas on how to change and elevate the team play. Work together and practice smart, not hard. This is the key term that you have to take out of this video. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed.